Hi everyone, warm welcome to you. Welcome to the Future Work Scotland. We're back for a new year. Happy New Year to you all. We had a fantastic festive break, holiday, got some time off, break from work, and you're fully refreshed and ready to go again. We certainly are with our 2024 programme. I'm thrilled to be kicking the year off with such a really relevant topic, I suspect, to many of us. I will introduce our speaker shortly, just the usual formalities. I'm your host, Sathpal Singh. I'm joined by the rest of the organising team, Donald Henderson, Paula's here as well. And Martin has joined us as well, our sponsor. So great to see everybody here for the first session. Very simple code of conduct. I would just ask you to be respectful of one another and everyone have a great time and have a great experience. And we do have a few community shout-outs for you at the end. So look out for those as we bring the session to a close. Usual format for Q&A, just drop your questions into the chat, prefix them with a Q. Makes it easier for the team and I to spot them. And we should have plenty of time for questions later on in the session. I'm thrilled to kick off this year and welcome our guest speaker, Adam Goodman-Smith, joining us for this session. Adam's he's a multi-talented guy. He's a speaker, he's a writer, he's a podcast host. You name it, I think he does it. Extensive experience and coaching and developing people, and he's got a real passion for helping to empower people, which we all love here at Future Work Scotland. He's got a number of admirable charity pursuits as well. And in the day job, he's the head of creative development at Barefoot Coaching, no less. Right. As many of us know. And Donald did their programme last year as well. So fantastic to have Adam here. And he's also the author of this very entertaining read, which I've just finished. So thoroughly enjoyed it. It's an excellent book and gave me lots of things to think about as I start to make my own plans and set my ambitions for the year ahead. And that's actually what we're here to hear about today from Adam. So without further ado, welcome Adam, and over to you.
Thank you. I think I might come again with such a wonderful introduction. That's fabulous. Thank you so much. So this is the bit where I try to share the right screen. Fabulous. Okay, that's the worst bit over then. So yeah, hello. Very warm welcome to this webinar. It's my pleasure to lead you through the next 90 minutes, and I'm going to be sharing tips and tricks and techniques from my book, The Way of the Diva, beautifully modelled by Sath and Donald earlier, your guide to a bolder, braver and more confident you. Essentially, it is a sassy guide to life is probably the simplest way to put it. It's packed full of tools that I've used throughout my life and tools that I really had to share with the world. And some of those I'm going to be sharing with you this evening. So I'm really excited because unless you were sort of forced here against your will, you are here because something about this topic spoke to you. So it could be that you've got a goal in mind for 2024. Perhaps it was the mention of self-mastery that piqued your interest. It could have been both. Whatever it is, and wherever you are here, you are very welcome into this space this evening. Audience participation is very welcome. I don't even mind the odd heckle, because they keep me on my toes, keep me sharp. I'll try and make this as interactive as possible, also just recognizing that it's late in the day. So there will be times where I'll be guiding you through some questions. Work to your own preferences. If you want to, you can close your eyes and think about your response. You're very welcome to write down your notes if you like. And for the reflectors in the room, of course, this is going to be recorded, so you're very welcome to come back to it and listen again. My only non-negotiable is that you please share the heck out of this content, please, because my mission this year is to make 2024 the year of the Diva, and that starts with you wonderful people this evening. So yeah, I'd love it if you could share this content far and wide. So let's get into it. So what's going to go down this evening? We're going to do a very short connection activity to get the neurons firing. Before I tell you a little bit about me and the story of Diva, which I think has an important message, it's not purely just self-indulgent. There's something behind it. And then after the story, we're going to do a bit of time traveling, because clearly divas have mastered the complexities of quantum mechanics. We are going to look back at the year that's been, what that year has taught us, and what insight we can use from that in the pursuit of our goals. But don't worry, there will be no mention of SMART objectives, because that gives me sort of, thank you, yeah, John likes that, sort of PTSD, I think, from my corporate days. But then we're going to look forward to what we want 2024 to hold for us, and indeed beyond. Before we come back to reality, and get down to business, but we are going to take, and this is so random, I appreciate it, a short visit to a sleepy town in Maine, USA. More on that later. And then I'm going to introduce you to the 5 foes of the diva and share some helpful tips to help you maximize your chances of achieving your 2024 goals. And then lastly, I mean, this already feels like it's a lot. Let's see how we get, how we'll get on in the time. Because no diva is an island, we're going to end by taking a look at your entourage, you know, the important people around you that support you, people who are high vibe and match our energy and can help us in making stuff happen. So if that sounds okay, we'll make a start. I'm seeing nods. Fabulous. Thank you. So quick chat storm to get us started. How easy do you find it to talk positively about yourself and your achievements? If you feel slightly uncomfortable, I would say that is normal. The downside to that, of course, is that we run the risk of downplaying our successes. And I'm going to talk a bit more about that later on. The word with everything, of course, is balance. We should be able to recognize our successes and achievements, and we should be able to talk about them confidently, and, you know, draw happiness from all those times that we succeeded. So what I'm going to invite you to do now is respond to this question that's on screen. What have you got going for you? So this could be absolutely anything. To give you a few ideas, it could be qualifications, it could be skills you've got, it could be goals you've achieved, it could be pets, animals, family, friends, difficulties you've overcome. The only rule is that modesty has no place here. So please, I invite you just to throw into the chat as many things as possible that come to mind. And this is the point where I realized that I can't see the chat. So Sam, you might have to help me.
I can certainly do that. I could do a bit of a summary or read them as they come in if you want. What's preferable?
Fabulous. Thank you. Yes.
Now they're scrolling through quickly. Now, I'm a software tester. There is no good stuff.
Oh, there must be some.
Come on now, John. Really, Lego, great team around me. Okay. Storytelling, bravery, trying new things. My golden retriever.
Oh, do we have a name for this golden retriever?
I've got
she's called Millie.
Pizza. Millie?
Millie.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. She's very welcome to make an appearance, you know.
Oh, she's tucked away in her bed, but if she comes through, I'll invite her up.
Fabulous.
Loving to learn. I wrote a book. I didn't know you wrote a book, Mark. I haven't read your book.
Honestly, anything. Sort of learning to play the recorder to climbing Mount Everest, everything is welcome. And if you've done both of those things, how fabulous.
Yeah, lots of passions for learning here. Love my job. Wow. Good for you,
Nice.
Tamsin. Learning quickly, still liking to learn, got lots of pets. I like this one. You'll like this one. Willing to be 100% me, even when it means I stand out.
I mean, how fabulous. You could teach me a thing or two. You should be leading this webinar.
Good family, enjoying learning, organised. Yeah, I think that's what we've got.
Fabulous. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, just fabulous. Let's just take a second to appreciate the collective wisdom and achievement and resilience, you know, in the room. This is an activity that we use quite a bit actually at Barefoot Coaching as a way of just getting people into the space, having them arrive, but also just sort of pulling on all of those little things that make us who we are. And actually what it does is it sort of things that we might have thought that we weren't particularly big achievements, we actually go, oh, do you know what, actually, yeah, that was quite major that I did that, you know, or actually no, not everybody has come through and survived X, Y, Z, whatever it might be. So my invitation to you is to continue that activity and to keep those gorgeous things in your back pocket for whenever you wobble, for whenever you need a reminder of who you are and everything you bring to the world. And on a very dual but sort of practical basis, it's also really helpful if you are going for an interview. You know, you've got something to pull out of your back pocket. So thank you for entertaining me. Much appreciated. Okay, so a little bit about me. And Seth, I mean, you did this brilliantly, actually, so I probably don't need to cover much of it off again. Thank you. But I'm Adam. I was born and raised in Nottingham. I'm married to my husband, Andy, and we have a 13-year-old Cavalier King Charles Spaniel who is in those photographs, who is my baby. She's very old now. She's got a really bad heart problem, so she does have a push chair, which I finally sort of just accepted now is a thing because she can't walk very, very far. My background is in corporate leadership development. I was 16 years in a retail organization, and in 2020, after many, many years of skirting around the edges of Barefoot Coaching, I, you know, the pandemic gave me the opportunity actually to train as a coach with Barefoot. And then I now find myself, almost 4 years later, working for them as head of creative. And as Seth mentioned, I do a couple of other things too. So I host the Barefoot Coaching podcast, which is called Make a Change to Make a Difference, where I speak to fabulous barefoot trained coaches who are making a difference in the world through their coaching. If you're interested at all in that, you can find that on Amazon. Not Amazon, you can find it on Apple Podcasts, you can find it on Spotify, and really wherever you get your podcasts. I'm also a very proud ambassador for 2 domestic abuse charities. The first is a local charity based in Nottingham called Broxtowe Women's Project, a small but mighty charity who do incredible work supporting women and children who are dealing with or recovering from domestic abuse. So big shout out to those guys. You can find them if you're at all interested in their work, Google them. They're really cool. And if you're up for donating, that would be really appreciated too. And then most recently, I have added author to my CV. It's getting longer and longer. And I think it's a sort of sign of an interesting life if you can't sum up what you do for a living in a sentence. At least that's what I'm telling myself anyway. And as I mentioned before, I'm on a mission to make 2024 the year of the Diva. You know, the last 3-4 years have been massively transformational for me. And I've already said this, you know, I'm just really happy to share some of that with you this evening, and some cool tools and techniques that are really practical that make a difference. So that is a bit about me. And I'm going to share with you the story of a diva because it has an important message with it. I left school at 16 years old and went straight into the world of work. I didn't go to university. I'm the only one of my siblings not to have the graduation photograph on the mantelpiece. I chose to go straight to work in retail, and a Christmas temp job turned into a 16-year-long corporate career in leadership development. As these things do, you know, if you're working for a big organization, you can just sort of find yourself moving from one role to the next, and an opportunity comes up over here, so we sidestep over there, and then before you know it, blinking, it's gone. 16 years have passed. That was my story anyway. And throughout that time, I knew that I wanted to write a book, to make a mark on the world, to make a difference to people's lives, but I had no idea where to start. I did try. I drafted the book more times than I can care to remember, but whenever I sat down to make a start, it just didn't come. I'd have a burst of energy and creativity, and I'd rush into the office and I'd sit down, get the laptop out, and the well runneth dry. Nothing came. And actually, in hindsight, looking back now, it was because it was boring. I was trying to make it something that it wasn't. You know, I was trying to make it just like so many other corporate leadership development or coaching books out there, and it was beige. And in truth, that was because I was a bit beige as well. I get ready for work in the morning, and I'd go into my closet and I would just look past all the beautiful bright colors and the funky trainers and the slogan t-shirts, and I would reach for a gray or navy shirt. I did towards the end manage to get away with some nice knitwear, but it took quite a while and was a bit orcs. But it took me, this is where the story starts to make sense, hopefully, is that it took me leaving that corporate career and going to work for Barefoot Coaching that set me off on a path that has led me to be here with you wonderful people this evening. The moment I arrived at Barefoot Coaching, I began to strip back those corporate layers and remind myself who I was. And what I found actually was somebody who loved wearing bright colours and funky trainers, who didn't speak in corporate jargon, who was creative and playful and actually swore quite a lot. And that wasn't just tolerated, but it was actually encouraged. I was encouraged by the most fabulous team here at Barefoot, Kim Morgan, our founder and CEO, and our managing director, Andy Chandler, to be more of myself. And then suddenly, this book that I was drafting that I thought was for leaders and organizations wasn't. It was a book that you would buy for your best friend. It wasn't stuffy. It wasn't sort of like systematic where you start at the beginning and you read all the way through to the end. It was playful. You could dip in and out. And most of all, and importantly for me, it had my personality running through it like a stick of Blackpool rock. And then The Way of the Diva was born. You know, I sat down to write it and it flowed. I wrote about 418 pages in, I think most of it I got down in about 7 to 8 weeks, which was just ridiculous. I drafted it all, you know, before then. But it was like I was channeling something. It was like I was, you know, I had somebody on my shoulder whispering the words to put next. And I share that story with you because I think it holds an important message in terms of authenticity. And being who you are, in terms of alignment with who you are and who you want to be, and also, you know, an important message in flow for those of you that are into positive psychology, flow being the state where our strengths and skills are in perfect harmony, and we intuitively know the next step to take, and it is as though we're channeling something. So that's my story. I invite you to take what you want from that, sit with it if you'd like to, and just see where you get to. If you can draw any sort of parallels to your own situation, or perhaps, you know, times in your life, and celebrate the breakthroughs. So Diva was born, and that's where we're going to go next. I can see people nodding, so yeah, thank you. I'm glad that resonated. So I'm going to read from the book the introduction, because I think it will tell you everything that you might want to know about this whole Diva thing, and what it is, what it isn't, how it came to be. So just a couple of pages, and I'm going to start with the intro. So, dear Diva, what drew you to pick up this book? Was it the catchy title, the colourful cover, or was it something else, something more profound, perhaps? A quiet knowingness that you are and have always been more powerful than you could ever imagine, that you are worthy and deserving of everything that this world has to offer, that all you have to do is have faith in yourself and you can live the kind of life you dream about. So what stopped you before? Fear of failure? Fear of success, maybe. Fear of being more of yourself, of speaking your mind and how that might change things. Regardless of the reason, my dear Diva, know that you've arrived at the right place at the right time. There's no such thing as an ordinary person or an ordinary life. You are one of 8 billion people on this planet, possibly in the entire universe. You are, by your very existence, extraordinary. I hope you realise that, how important you are to the world, because the world needs it. It needs you to believe in yourself and to speak your truth, whatever that may be. We haven't found ourselves by accident, you and I. You are here because you're meant to be. And my instincts tell me that you're searching for something. Maybe it's more belief in yourself. Perhaps it's learning to take a stand and stand up for yourself, to put an end to people taking advantage of you. Maybe you're looking for more confidence, happiness, or a greater sense of meaning in your life. Perhaps you're just here for the good times, for the sass and the gags. Whatever the reason and whatever you're looking for, I'm here to help you find it. This book has been almost a decade in the making. It takes the best of what I know about real life, human behaviour, personal development, psychology, and coaching, and it marries it with everything that I know about how to be a confident and self-assured diva. I hope that the result feels real, relevant, and means that you can start benefiting from the ideas, tools, and techniques straight away. I've spent my entire career in the business of people, from retail to HR, and from training to coaching. I've watched, I've observed, and I've learnt. I've seen people at their very best, and I've seen people at their worst. I've grown to know with some certainty that in the face of stress, strain, and overwhelm, even the most capable and successful of people can lose sight of who they are and everything that they bring to the world. Far too often, even the strongest, most resilient and capable people can, without too much effort, become their worst enemies. See if any of this next bit starts to, chime something with you. They entertain the nagging little voice in their head that tells them they aren't good enough, that they aren't worthy, and that if they try, they will fail. They become more concerned with what will happen if things go wrong than if they went right. They compare their own story their achievements, talents, and possessions to those of others, making up all sorts of stories that just aren't true. She's 2 years younger than me, and look at what she has that I don't. Whether they succeed or fail, inverted commas, more on that later, they become obsessed with what people might think about them, that they poke fun or be mean. They ruminate on conversations they've had and drive themselves mad, attempting, and always failing, to fill in the gaps. When they do well, they downplay their success. Oh, well, anybody could do that. Doesn't make me special. Both at home and at work, they allow imposterism to set in. It was down to luck that I got here. At any moment, they'll find me out and I'll lose it all. They place their own needs and desires at the bottom of the priority list, insisting instead that other people's happiness is more important than their own. They become a passenger in their life, waiting for their turn, hoping that success will find its way to them when the time is right. I had a conversation with a friend actually this week just about that. This book calls bull on all of that and more. If you recognize any of what you've heard so far in your own behavior and you're ready to do something about it, then this book is written for you. If you're fortunate enough not to have to face some of the challenges I've described, then I ask that you take these tools and principles and use them to help those around you who at times can be their own worst enemy. Or even better, darlings, buy them the book. You see, our time here is finite. It's a brief flash in the pan, blink and it's gone. The universe had to wait 13.8 billion years for you to show up. Do the universe and yourself a favor and make that wait worthwhile. Get out there, be fabulous, strut your stuff, love yourself and love others. Make the most of your time here. Be the diva you are and have always been. Do good and receive good in return. And then I end that with the words of Mae West, a true Hollywood diva, light years ahead of her time. You only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough. Hopefully that gives you just a little insight into what this whole diva thing is about. And with your permission, I will move on. Oh, Sath, you got your hand up?
No, I'm just giving you a virtual round of applause.
Oh, thank you, you gent. Cheers. Okay, so what do I need you to know before we move on? First thing, forget everything that you know about the traditional Hollywood diva, those divas of old that were bitchy and unkind and demanding and looked down on people, because the modern day diva is altogether different. We do share some common traits though, and those are around standing in our power, believing in ourselves, being confident, assertive, and making life happen to us rather than for us. I did that wrong. It's the other way around. Making life happen for us, not to us. It was going to happen. So I share this with you because it took me longer than I care to admit, actually, to realize that one of the most fabulous things about this life is that we can be more than one thing. And paradoxes now are my absolute favorite thing. So we can be confident and we can still be humble. We can set and maintain boundaries and we can still be kind. We can be vulnerable and still be resilient. And we can be modest and still be driven, know what we want, set our sights and get out there and make it happen. And we can be compassionate and be steadfast. You know, this is one of the things that I hear the most when I'm working with clients around boundaries. You know, people-pleasing tendencies, when people say yes, when they really want to say no, and there's this belief that's carried that if I were to say no to somebody, that they might think that I'm a bad person. Well, life doesn't work like that, you know? It's not one shot and then you're forever, you know, not a good person. So I really ask to, you know, to embrace this And by embracing it and by showing up as we are, we encourage other people to do the same. I'm seeing nods, so fabulous. Okay, so the best way to explain it is imagine a spectrum. And at one end of the spectrum, I'm not going to swear, I don't know if there are children around, but we've got the selfish you-know-what at one end of the spectrum. This person is driven by ego. They are charging their way through life, leading a sort of trail of destruction behind them. It's their agenda, their focus, and anybody else that gets in their way, you know, they won't even register. And then at the other end of the spectrum, we have the doormat, the people pleaser. This is the person who is saying yes when they really want to say no. They're putting other people's priorities, goals above their own. And when we're in that space, this is a case of you win and I lose, with the selfish person at the other end being the opposite. Now, the diva, sits firmly in the middle. We take the best of both of those and we bring them together so we can have self-worth, self-confidence, and we can embrace humility, compassion, and kindness. So that's that bit. We're going to now move into our first bit of time travel. So you can do this a number of ways. You can simply listen to the questions and think about your responses. You're very welcome to write them down. And of course, as I said at the beginning, you can watch this back. So, time travel. The reason for doing this is that if you are somebody who's driven, if you make a habit of setting your sights and making stuff happen, then what we find is you can move too quickly onto the next challenge before we've really looked back at what we've achieved. And this is what I say I coin. I've not done the research, someone else got there before me, but second mountain syndrome. Okay, we've set a goal, you've fought through the snow and the ice, you've climbed all the way to the top of the mountain, and before you've even had a chance to look back at how far you've come, you've set your sights on another mountain and you are off. So let's look back at 2023 and see what learnings we can take to help us with our goal as we move into 24. And I've seen Stephanie has a fabulous cuddly toy head. Marvelous. So first question for you. Just spend a moment thinking about what are you most proud of as you look back in 2023? What was the toughest thing that you came through last year? What was your biggest learning in 2023? Who played a key role in bringing out the best in you? Just give you another moment to finish. And now I invite you, if you'd like, to sum up your 2023 in 3 words. And you are very welcome to pop those into the chat. Sath, are you okay to keep an eye on the chat and shout a few out for me?
Yeah, sure. I've started you off with a roller coaster ride. That was mine.
Oh, fabulous.
Proud, inspired, grounded. Oh, nice. Thank you.
Nice.
Challenging, blasted thing. I survived it.
Wow.
That's a good one.
Yes, you did, my friend. By the way, we won't hold you to these. You can change them afterwards if you like.
Any more, folks? That might be it.
Okay.
Oh, here's one. Challenging, perseverance, resilience.
Nice.
I like the last one.
Yeah.
Lots of adventure. I like that.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Okay. Fabulous. I hope that you found that little activity helpful, because the thing about second Mountain syndrome is if we don't take the time to look back, or indeed, as it says on the screen, open a bottle of fizz and celebrate, then we run the risk of robbing ourselves actually of 3 things. The first is the valuable lessons that can serve us on our next endeavor. There's the joy that can be had in seeing how far you've come and in celebrating your success. And actually, especially in the world as it is today, where everything's, life is lived at 100 miles an hour, some time to stand still, actually, to rest and to recover, before we go again. So thank you. So we've looked back. We are now going to spend some time thinking about goals for 2024. And the first thing that we're going to explore is motivation, meaning, and purpose. So this is a quote by Tyler Henry that says, "Purpose breathes life into everything we do, solidifying and manifesting that which all starts on an internal level." And we're going to be focusing equally as much on why we want the thing that we want in 24 and beyond, as well as the thing that we want. So that's where we're going to go next. And I'm going to start with asking you to reflect on your why. Self-inquiry is a fabulous thing. It is very surprising what you can find out about yourself by taking the time just to ask yourself the question, why? I think there's a corporate model is there around the 5 whys. If you ask yourself why 5 times, you will get to the heart of the issue or the thing that's driving the behavior. So we're going to look at why through 2 lenses. The first one is, who are we doing it for? Is this something we want to achieve for ourselves, or actually is it being driven by somebody else? And then what's driving it in terms of towards pleasure or away from pain? So in terms of who it's for, you may very well have heard about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation being that we are doing this for ourselves. For example, it will bring us joy. It will be personally rewarding for us. You are doing it for yourself. The flip to that, extrinsic motivation. This is you're doing it because you feel you should, or you've been asked to do it. It could be to please somebody else. It could be to support somebody else's agenda. Essentially, it's a motivation that's stemming, everywhere other than from yourself. Extrinsic motivation isn't bad. External rewards can be particularly helpful in making stuff happen. For that reason, I'll often advise clients to share their goals with people, because it can help them be accountable for what it is they want to achieve. The issue, of course, comes if the thing that's driving, the motivation, is being driven by somebody other than ourselves. The wonderful thing is that 8 billion of us on the planet, we're all motivated differently. It's not a case of good or bad, it's just helpful to spend a few minutes thinking about what is really behind this thing that you want to achieve. And it might be that you have a particular goal that you're coming to this webinar with, and it might not be. That's perfectly fine. But I would invite you to take some time to think about who's it for, who are you doing it for? And then that leads me on beautifully then to talk about, where are we going here? Is this goal being driven towards pleasure because we really want it? Or actually, is it being driven away from pain? In the book, I share an example of somebody who is wanting to make music, turn their hobby into a career. And at first, when explored, we think, okay, this is a goal that is being motivated towards pleasure. I want to take this thing that I love doing as a hobby, and I want to make money from it. And then as we explore through the 5 whys, where we actually arrive at is that this person, the real motivation is that they don't want to end up like their parents. So in this case, their parents worked. They didn't have the luxury of being able to do work that really fulfilled them. It was a case of making ends meet. And when we get down to the nub of it, actually the thing that's really driving them is that they don't want to get to retirement age and think that they've sort of not made the most of their life. So really important, really fascinating to consider our why. And I invite you to just spend a moment or two considering it before we move then into the what.
Sorry, can I pose a question here? What if it falls into all 4 of those areas?
I mean, that's really interesting. It's going to be a case of really self-inquiry. I mean, do you have a particular example that you're happy to share?
Well, realistically, the big issue for this year is probably getting my health back on track, and of course that's for myself, for my loved ones as well, and it's towards pleasure of almost not feeling the pain and being able to do a lot more than I've been able to do.
Yeah,
Get out and do more. So it sort of falls into all 4 areas.
And as you, yeah, I mean, the fact that you're smiling actually, I think, is telling, because it comes down to all this for what purpose, And this is something I imagine that when you've said you're doing it for yourself, you're doing it for your family. So I think awareness is really important, because awareness equals choice. When we really understand why we're doing what we're doing, why we are how we are, we can then make a choice to do something different, So if you looked at that and you've thought, actually, I'm not doing it for me, I'm doing it for the doctor, then this would be a different conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, John, for sharing, and being so generous with sharing. Thank you. Okay. Ready to move into the what? Fabulous. Okay, so I'm sharing this absolutely gorgeous model with you by Tal Ben-Shahar. It's called MPS. It's from his book, which I believe is titled Happiness. This is a real staple in my work, and it features in the book too. Now, the concept behind MPS is that when we're creating and crafting goals, if we include, or when we're crafting them, we think about, does this give me a sense of meaning and purpose? Does it feel like it's sort of part of the greater good, whatever greater good looks like for you? Does it give me pleasure? Is it something that's fun, that I will enjoy? And then lastly, does it play to my strengths? You know, does it give me energy? Does it make me feel good? And I've used this a lot actually in career coaching, because quite often when people find themselves in a disorienting dilemma, for example, they find themselves in the position of being made redundant, and they're then thinking about what they want career 2.0 to look like. When it's viewed through this sort of frame, they might go, well, actually, if I were to just get another job doing exactly the same thing, it doesn't give me a sense of meaning or purpose. It doesn't make me happy. And actually, it doesn't, you know, play to my strengths. No wonder I've been so blooming miserable all these years. So it's a really, really helpful frame to look at our goals through. Does it bring me meaning and purpose? Does it make me happy? Does it play to my strengths? And the idea is that crafting goals that overlap and find that real sweet spot in the middle will be those that are the most fulfilling to us. So right now, I invite you to think about the goal, if you have a goal in mind for 2024. And I'm going to guide you through a series of questions before we then take our next trip forward in time. First question I invite you to think about: what is it that you want to bring about in your life? Could be this year, actually, it could be a longer term goal. And if you haven't brought a goal with you, go with your gut. When I asked you that question, there'd have been something that came to mind. Does it pass the OO test? What would make it pass? Dial up something over here, ticks off the pleasure. Dial down something over there, plays to my strengths more. It might be that you don't have an answer for these questions. What I would encourage you to take notice of, though, is the feeling in your body. Quite often, our body will answer the question for us before our brains can. Who's it for? Who are you setting out to complete this goal for? For yourself or for somebody else? And what's your motivation? Are we talking towards pleasure or away from pain? thoughts, comments before we move on? What's coming up for you? What are you noticing? What would you like to share?
Welcome to unmute, folks. If you want to share something with Adam, you can't see the chat, Adam. So, well, I can read it if you drop it in the chat. Either way, it works.
Okay.
A comment here. It's not or for me. It's and for me and my family.
Nice. Yeah, nice.
That's something that.
Yeah, that's good. Again, you know, awareness equals choice. Asking the question, getting the answer, you'll know straight away in your tummy whether you're doing this for the right reasons or whether we need to take a closer look because there's more going on. Last question then to think about, who will you be after you've done it? That's a big one. Okay. Thank you, folks. So we're going to move into the next part, which is about visioning success. This is a strategy that I've pulled on repeatedly, actually, throughout my career. And it became the basis, it was the basis for the book, actually. The idea that if we vision our success and we really step into the shoes of our future self who has achieved the things that we want to achieve, we can use that valuable motivation and insight to actually make stuff happen. You know, talking from a place of having been there and got the t-shirt really helps us to think broadly, creatively about how we achieved it, how we overcame barriers that got in our way. And it gives us actually a starting place, you know, a first action to take. What's it all about? Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Positive energy attracts positive outcomes. All of these three statements say the same thing. Your thoughts determine the actions that you take and actually also the actions that you don't take, which in turn determines your results. So here's the thing, our brains, as well as being fabulous things, have a few quirks. One of those quirks that we can use to our advantage is that our brains find it almost impossible to tell the difference between something that has already happened, so a memory, and something that is yet to happen, you know, a dream or a vision. It's one of the reasons why we wake up from a dream and it feels so real. It's almost like we were there. And this is a reason why fear is such a good strategy at keeping us safe. If you are somebody who does not like public speaking, and I kind of class myself in that as well. I'm okay with Zoom, but if you ask me to stand up in front of a room of, I don't know, like a conference of 100 plus people, I would actually die. Excuse me. The fear that we can feel before we're about to walk in and give that presentation feels so real and so sort of in the moment that we get all these physiological responses that make you just want to get out there and run, you know, flight, freeze. So whether you call it visioning success or presupposing success, in the book, I call it blag it till you bag it. We can trick our mind and body into thinking that we've achieved the things that we want to set out to. That creates an influx of dopamine, which does two things. It makes us feel good, which is lovely, but most importantly, it helps us to think broadly and bigger and more creatively about how we made that success happen. And that gives us a way in, you know. Once we've visualized and once we've really felt how good it feels to achieve the thing that we want to achieve, we can retrace the steps that we took. We can explore how we overcame barriers. And, you know, speaking back to ourselves as the person who's been there, done it, and got the t-shirt, not only provides us with some clear actions and next steps, but it gives us the confidence and the motivation to get out and make the darn thing happen. So, you know, believe it can be done. And when you believe, your mind, my mind, our minds will find a way to make it happen. And that's what we're going to do next. Visualize your success, believe it, and then prove yourself right. You are the creator of the path that you travel, as well as the only obstacle that will ever block its way. Okay. I'm going to guide you through a short visualization. You can do this with your eyes closed. You might want to make notes, that's fine too. Hopefully you are all somewhere where you are comfortable and you're not going to be disturbed. Okay. So, my first question to you. Think of a point in the future where you've achieved your goal. And if you haven't got a goal that you're coming here with, then just think of something small that you want to achieve. It doesn't have to be a big grand vision. It could be a hobby that you want to pick up, or it could be having the kitchen refit. And now I want you to imagine a future version of yourself walking towards you, having achieved this goal. Notice them. What do they look like? What sort of expression do they have on their face? Are they smiling? Or something else? What clothes are they wearing? How do they carry themselves? Are they sort of stood up straight, shoulders back, chin up? What do you notice about the energy that they're giving off? How do they interact with the world around them? Are they at ease? Or something else? Now notice their surroundings. Where are they? And then when you're ready, I'd like you to walk over to future you and step into their shoes. I want you to really feel their success and notice what it does to your body. Notice your heart rate, body temperature, posture, and now from the point of view of having achieved the thing you want to achieve, I'd like you to talk back to yourself today. How did you make it happen? What did you have to stop doing? Who helped you? And lastly, what advice would you give to your today self? And now I'd like you to bring all of that success and that belief and confidence back to yourself today. And my question to today you is, what's the first step that you're going to take in pursuit of this goal? The one thing that will edge you closer to the future that you desire. And for those that are happy to share, you're welcome to pop it into the chat. Manage your own levels of self-disclosure. Share only what you're comfortable sharing. It might just be how you've been left feeling after that. A word.
Quite a nice moment of reflection that was, Adam. That's it. Got one here. Stephanie. Future me reminded me to finish applying for a course. I need to get the training and certification that would help me with my goals.
Fabulous.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you. What else?
Nothing so far. You okay time-wise, your side? Yeah. Yeah, you good? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Fabulous. I hope you found that valuable. Thank you. In the book, there are a number of other tools that I include that can be helpful if this sort of work is of interest to you. They're on the screen now. All of them do the same thing, which is helping us to vision that future state that we want for ourselves and edge us closer to it. I'm going to move through because I've got a few other bits to cover before the end. This might sound counterintuitive, given that we've spent some time visioning our success, but like with anything, it's balance. Not about living in a dream world, but it's about going there, getting that valuable motivation that can help us in the present. We, of course, still have to be in it to win it. And I'm a big believer in getting out there and even if we're not quite sure of the next step, just doing something. It's important for me to mention as well this idea of staying present and being open to success in disguise. You know, if we become too fixated on one version of what success looks like, we can easily find ourselves, you know, having opportunities pass us by from this direction because we're too busy over here focusing on one version of what we want that to look like. So it's important for me to mention. And the biggest thing, you know, is just watch how you talk to yourself. And that's where we're going to spend a bit of time next, because it really matters. You know, the words that we use when we speak to ourselves create the framework, the system in which we operate in, which is the thing that makes everything else happen. So, self-mastery. I'm going to do this bit really quickly. And this was a last minute addition to my pack, which is either going to work or it's going to absolutely flop. And I trust that you will tell me either way. But for those of you who were a fan like I am of 1990s Murder, She Wrote and Jessica Fletcher, I invite you to think about that episode in Murder, She Wrote where Jessica had a quiet, relaxed day at home and she kept herself to herself. She did the washing and she didn't get in anybody's business. Now, of course, you won't remember that episode because it never happened. John's shaking his head. Yes, you know, you know. The thing about Jessica is that she always found trouble. The thing about trouble is if you go looking for it, you will always find it. And here is where I hope that this sort of metaphor makes sense, in that our brains can be a bit like Jessica Fletcher. However, we don't always get it right. So let's take a closer look at Jessica's case file. Keen observation skills. Fair to say. Overdone, we can forget actually that other people see things differently to us. Our reality is our perception and nothing more. Problem solving. Overdone, we can find ourselves filling in the gaps with our best guess. Well, they said that to me because they meant X or they meant Y. Analytical thinking. When we get caught in a cycle of thought, we can find ourselves catastrophizing, that sort of all or nothing thinking. My boss said they want to have a meeting with me on Tuesday. Oh my God, that means that I'm going to be made redundant. I need to start looking for a job. What's going to happen with the mortgage and the kids? Oh my word. Inquisitiveness. We can find ourselves sticking our nose into other people's business. Oh, let me do that for you. Let me take that. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I can babysit. Intuition. Overdone. We can be too much going with our gut and we fail to consider the facts and the data. And lastly, persistent, because my word, she was. But the thing about persistence is we don't give ourselves a break. That thought comes into our head, that negative thought, and we will keep going and ruminating on it and thinking through every possible outcome. The thing about self-mastery is that we can have the most perfect life and everything can be just as we would want it and desire it, and our brains will still find trouble. And they said that, okay, I'm going to think on that, and then, you know, and then I find myself in the morning waking up and it's whirling around my head. So this is a nice introduction into the 5 foes of a diva, which I am going to rattle through. Sath, how long have I got?
A little under 10 minutes, about 10 minutes tops, maybe. Just need 5 minutes to wrap up. We've got a few announcements today, so is that okay?
Yeah. So this is going to be a whistle-stop tour of the 5 foes of a diva. And if you're at all interested, you can, of course, find more in the book, The Way of the Diva. So, foe 1, fear of failure, also actually encompasses fear of success, which can be just as a driver for us is fear of failure. Photo, comparing ourselves to others. Look what they've got that I don't have. Feeling like an imposter. I don't know how I got here. They're going to find me out, and when they do, X, Y, Z will happen. Downplaying our successes and talents. This is why we started with what have you got going for you? And the more we do that, the more it becomes ingrained in our being. And the more, when we're asked, we can recount our successes and talents with pride. And putting off until we're ready. Oh, I'll wait until the kids go to school, or, I'll wait until X, Y, Z before. And of course, there is never a good time. So real whistle-stop tour through the 5 foes sounds like fear of failure. If it all goes wrong, what will people think of me? What if that happens? What if what will happen to the money? What will happen to the house? Dalai Lama is quoted as saying, I never fail. I either win or I learn. To what degree is fear of failure holding you back? If you were to bet on yourself, what might you stand to gain? And the question I love to ask, well, what have you got to lose? The thing about the 5 foes of a diva is a diva knows that an oops is better than a what if. Foe 2, comparing ourselves to others. Oh, they're so much better. Look at what they've got. I'm not half as successful as they are. The thing about the world today, particularly with social media, is that appearances are not just deceiving, but appearances are designed to be deceiving. And one of the worst things we can allow ourselves to do is compare our sort of behind the scenes life to other people's highlights reels. Sath, will the folks get the slides afterwards?
If you're happy to share them, yeah, we can distribute
Yeah,
them.
lovely. So you can come back to these questions.
Yeah.
Think about in what ways, in what context you compare yourself to others. It might be in a work setting, it might be in a home setting. And if you were to care less, what could you do with that energy? Foe 3, feeling like an imposter. It was luck that got me here. They'll find me out. If you knew that everybody in the room felt exactly the same way, how would that change things? The thing about this is I've worked with people from shop floor level to execs, and the thing that they all have in common is that at some point in their life, they feel like the imposter. It's one of the reasons why I really, really dislike the term imposter syndrome, because it's not a syndrome. Syndrome sort of implies something that we either have or we don't. And the reality, as far as I'm concerned, is that at some point in our lives, all of us will feel like an imposter. We're all dealing with the same stuff, and we're just doing our best to get by. Helpful one to remind ourselves of. We've talked about downplaying our successes and talents. This is a big one here, actually, is that what I hear quite often is that people worry that if they were to share the things they've achieved, that people will think they're arrogant. And I think the thing to bear in mind there is that actually, my view anyway, is that arrogance stems less from sharing our achievements and more so from failing to acknowledge our weaknesses or gaps. And then lastly, we've got the putting off until you're ready. I'll wait, I'll do it then. And of course, the reality is there is never a good time. The only thing that we ever have is the now. I invite you, to think about, as you leave this webinar, what's the one thing you're going to do to edge you closer to your goal? Waiting won't help. Beautiful quote here by Eckhart Tolle: be present as the watcher of your mind, of your thoughts and your emotions, as well as your reaction. Be at least as interested in your reaction as in the situation or person who caused you to react. Now, my version of that is a bit more straight talking. I had a friend once who told herself that she wasn't good enough. Do you know what happened to her? There you go. So the next part was going to be taking a closer look at your entourage. We'll make sure you get the slides, and I encourage you to reflect on this activity afterwards. Your entourage is made up of 5 different types of people who support you in your life. People that make you feel good, people you admire, people that have got certain skills that you need in order to be able to achieve your goal, and actually those people that will just tell you how it is. You know, all of them really, really important in their own way. And there's an activity in here to get you thinking about who you turn to, what you turn to them for, and how they could help you in the pursuit of your goals. So the last thing I invite you to do is think about one thing that you want to do differently in 2024. You're welcome to pop that into the chat. You're welcome to keep it to yourself. Let me know if we get anything, Seth. I'm going to move into the next part. And those other bits, they can still be coming in, you know, while I'm just closing us out. So, I mean, time has flown by. Thank you so much for inviting me into your beautiful homes this evening. It's been so lovely to meet so many of you. I'd love to stay connected. I'd love for you to add me to your entourage. You can do that by finding me on social media at The Way of the Diva. That is Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm also on there as Adam Goodman-Smith. On LinkedIn, I'm Adam Goodman-Smith. And I would love it as well if you could head over to thewayofthediva.com and join the VIP list. So I do live events. I'm going to be doing a load of live events in 2024. And if you sign up to that list, then as soon as I've got dates released, if it's in your part of the country, pop along and say hi. So that would be fantastic. And then lastly, Sath, before I hand back over to you, the book, The Way of the Diva, Your Guide to a Bolder, Braver You, is available on my website. Thank you. Beautifully modelled, Sath. Cheers. As well as the Diva deck, which are 56 affirmation cards. They also include things to do this week, things to remember. Go perfectly with the book, and you can get hold of those in the bundle. Future of Work Scotland, you get 10% off on the Diva store at thewayofthediva.com with that code that's on screen. If you really, really must buy on Amazon, and I encourage you not to, but if you really want to, you can find it on there, but you'll get that discount and you will get a signed copy of the book as well as a beautiful Way of the Diva tote bag if you order through the website. So thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. And Sath, I'll hand back over to you.
That's it. Thank you, Adam. That was great. A fantastic start to the year. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Very thought-provoking, and I think everybody got a lot of value out of that. And we'll circulate the slides once you get a chance to get them over to us. We don't, unfortunately, really have time for questions. There was one quick one in the chat. If you're able to answer it very, very quickly, succinctly, we always like to do Q&As. And John's asking, as a leader, how do we show that a team effort was not me, though the team did it? The team who did it. Any very quick, succinct words of wisdom on that?
As a leader, how do we show that a team effort was not me?
So, as a leader, you're, giving the credit to the team and being public.
Yeah, absolutely. There's this whole idea of servant leadership. And I think nowadays, as organizations are adopting more agile approaches where teams are sort of put together and disbanded based on project, the role of the leader is very, very different because it's not about command and control anymore. It's about motivating and guiding and helping people show up, at their best. So I think that is my advice. There's definitely something about stepping back and allowing good people to lead the way.
That's it. Beautiful answer. Just want to say thank you, Adam. That was great. Loved hosting you. Thank you for a great opening to the year. And I hope we might see you again sometime.
Thank you.
In the
Yes,
future. And I did thoroughly enjoy the book. So recommendation from me, folks, on Adam's book. It's a great read.
You're very
do you have a couple of quick announcements? Sorry, you're speaking, Adam?
No, just a thank you from me.
Brilliant. Thanks again. We do have a couple of quick announcements. We're a bit squeezed for time this evening. We've got a handful of minutes. A couple of announcements, and then I'll just give a quick rundown of what's coming up, just in our usual manner in which we close the sessions. I'm going to welcome in our sponsor, Martin, who just wanted to say a couple of words about some exciting stuff going on in his world. Martin, and you about? No, I can see you. There you are.
Coming off mute's always a good idea. We have been doing a lot of experimentation. As you know, we teach a lot of Scrum classes over here in Glasgow. Well, kind of virtually, so it's anywhere. But we've been moving very heavily towards a more immersive style training where it's not just a 2-day class, one and done, and then you forget everything 30 seconds after you finish the class and don't get a chance to apply it because it's all gone. So we're moving to a format where we deliver the class over multiple weeks. So the traditional 2-day format has become an 8-week format. So we do a 4-hour session a week for 8 weeks. And at the end of every session, you get an assignment. It's a very vague assignment, so don't worry. It's always something you can figure out something to do around it within your org. But it means you're going and trying to apply something within your organization. And then we do a big debrief when you come back. We're very lucky that Paula was on the last product owner class. I think you had a lot of fun, didn't you, Paula?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you. I love the format. I have done some assessments before, and they were the 2 days, and it was too rushed. And I felt that it was much better having a chance to practice each week, and also coming back to the group and discussing it as well was really insightful. And building that rapport with the rest of your classmates was really, really helpful. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Martin.
And obviously with the longer format, there's no guarantee that you'll not have school holidays in the middle of the class and those kind of things. And we had that. We had people pop off for ski trips, and we had other, yep. And we had
the first 2 weeks I missed, but not for a ski trip, sadly. But yeah,
it's a lot more accepting, right, in that new format because it's over a much longer period of time. And we're actually doing 8-week and 12-week versions with additional stuff in there as well. So I just wanted to let you know that we're doing a 2-for-1. It's effectively bring a friend. You know how sometimes you can get budget for a course, but then it sucks because you're the only one in the company that's taken it, and you're like, how do I get help with this? So we're doing it rather than 2-for-1 on procurement. You just do procurement for 1, and then you get a free other person to bring along with you to the class. So all our new classes actually start. Agile Leadership starts this Friday. And then we have Product Owner and Scrum Master starting on Wednesday next week. So if anybody is, I know it's a short time frame, John, but you don't have to pay the invoice to start the course. That's totally fine. So as long as you can get approval, then I'm totally cool. So you'd all be welcome coming along to that.
Great, fantastic. Thanks, Martin.
Thanks.
Great. So yeah. Cool. Something else?
I just said thanks, Saf.
You're welcome. Always good to have you on and hear from you. We do have another quick one. We're right up on time, so we've got a special guest appearance from somebody who's known to a number of you who are regular attendees here. Erin Randall's joined us, and she also has an exciting announcement to make around something that might be of interest to you all over the coming weeks. So, Erin, I'm going to unmute you, which I don't seem to be able to do, which is weird, which is something you'd flag with me. That's kind of weird. Why can't we unmute you? Something wrong with your... I don't know if I can see you on screen. Why can't we unmute you? That's kind of bizarre. Do you want to come back in, or?
No, I've tried that a couple of times.
Have you tried it too?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Right, so I'll cover for Erin then. It was great to have Erin here. So Erin, as some of you might know, runs a wonderful program called Magnesium. If you follow Erin on LinkedIn or anywhere else, you've probably seen it online. It's a great immersive coaching experience. It's about bringing a great cohort together, creating and holding a space for reflection. Erin is going to be running a cohort in Europe this year, which is really, really good. Donald and I are both intending to join that and participate in all of that. So we'll share the link with you. I've got a link here somewhere. Let me just drop that in the chat. Somebody shared it. Yeah, Erin shared it, so she's in the chat. So she shared the link there. Take a look at that. I think it'll be fantastic. And it starts next month. And it's really well priced. And we're hoping to get about 50 people from across the European continent onto that. So, take a look, share it with your friends, encourage others to get involved. I think, again, it's a really nice program to be doing as you're starting to explore your new self. So it links quite nicely to some of the stuff that Adam's been talking about tonight. So I think there's lots of great linkages. It looks really good, and I'm certainly looking forward to it. So there we go. I covered that off for you, and hopefully that was okay. I promised a video. No problems. So that's Erin's program. So check that out. And just to close off, we're starting to build up the program, as you all know. So we're just about to finalise the February event. So that was an exciting look at how Agilists and those on the financial side can be brought closer together in a more effective manner. So we're going to have a session on that. Just finalising the details on that. So we will announce that as quickly as we can. We're just finalising things with our speakers. So we should have that live in the next week or so. So just look out for that one meetup. And we've already got our March session in. If you've already been perusing our event schedule on meetup, and that will be a great session on motivational maps with James Sales again, somebody that Donald and I have interacted with. We've looked at his body of work, and again, it looks great. And they've already tried some of his emotional map tools. So we'll have that for you as well in March. And we'll be building up the rest of it as quickly as we can. So look out for the rest of the stuff coming up. So yeah, great to have you here today. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your participation. Wonderful to get the year off to such a great start. And we hope we'll see you again soon. So thank you all for joining, and have a good afternoon, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be. And we hope to see you again. Stay safe, folks. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Be careful.